Matthew Dickson is a Canadian who bicycled across Canada at age 20, then got schizophrenia at age 22, and it took him 27 years, but he successfully recovered, and now he helps others with mental illnesses, specifically in developing countries, so they can get access to basic mental health care. And Matthew is on the line with us here. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So what was it that influenced you to take care of people with mental health in developing countries?
When I was at my worst with my own mental illness, schizophrenia, my heart went out through my whole recovery. My heart went out to people with mental illness in developing countries, or war-torn countries. I went through mental illness in Canada with an okay mental health care system. It needs a lot of work, but it's better than many other countries. And I lived in a sleepy part of Canada, pretty quiet, but I felt like I was living in a war zone. A lady saw me walking down the street and she said that I looked like I was walking through a world of flying glass. I'm like, yeah, that's what it felt like. So I'm just trying to help people who had it worse than I did, who have it worse than I did.
And what's the attitude like in these developing countries? Because mental health is something that we're only just kind of awakening to right now, if you like. So are they further back in developing countries?
Yeah, in some cases they are. They need more awareness. There's more stigma and whatnot. Yeah, yeah.
How did you discover that you had schizophrenia back when you were only 22 years old?
In health class in high school in the 80s, we learned about mental health, but we didn't learn about mental illness, about anxiety, depression, OCD, schizophrenia, bipolar. And through university, I could feel some symptoms coming onto me that were which was schizophrenia setting in, but they didn't impair me that much. I could still get mostly A's in engineering. I bicycled across Canada feeling not the best. I was on the university rowing team, living on my own. I could do things myself, but I felt these symptoms sort of slowly creeping in. But when the disease hit, it hit hard. I went from muddling through life a little bit to just flat on my back, incapacitated, not knowing whether I was going to live or die from one moment to the next. And I voluntarily went to get help myself.
And you say at school you learn about mental health, but not mental illness. What is the difference between those two?
Mental health is more all-encompassing. You might call it more psychology. And first off, I'm not a mental health expert. The only official certification I have is an engineering degree. but we were learning things about in health class, like if you exercise too much as a way of not coping well with things, exercise addiction, that sort of thing. But I never knew the words depression or anxiety in the clinical sense.
You may have had an exercise addiction at one point in your life because you bicycled across Canada. Was that exhausting?
That was actually a lot of fun. The pace we went at to cover Canada in 2 months is above average. A lot of teachers try to do the trip, so they squeeze it in from the first day of school to the last day of school to the first day of school in the summertime. But it's amazing how fast you can get into shape to do that. They said anyone of average physical fitness can do the trip if you do the training. The training is April, May, and June. Try to log 2,000 kilometers during that time. And then the trip is July and August. And it's amazing how quickly some people don't even train to do that. One guy didn't train. He just hopped on his bike and showed up. A lady who wrote a book called Miles from Nowhere, she and her husband bicycled around the world. They just started out on their own. You might be sore for the first couple of weeks, but after that, you just get going.
It must be a pretty hard challenge because Canada is the second biggest country in the world. You've got a lot of land to cover because you can do the British version, Land's End to John O'Groats, or the other way around if you like, but it only takes about 2 weeks. Whereas for you, how long did that take? 2 months maybe?
10 weeks, yeah. 2 months, yeah. 10 weeks, yeah.
That's a lot of effort.
Thanks. It's daunting. I was signing up for that. I was thinking, what are you doing, Matthew? Really?
Yeah.
Who are you? You're not even like really much of an athlete, who signed you up for this?
Yeah.
But once I was out there, I was amazed at how much easier it was than I thought. And that's what I've been trying to tell people for years is I know it's daunting. You're thinking, oh my gosh, how could I possibly do that? But once you're out there, you think, oh, it's the human body can just go for so long with just moderate forms of exercise. It's amazing.
Your website, mindaid.ca, is where you help people with mental health. What kind of resources can we find on your site?
Yeah, so my website is the world's first website with all the groups helping people with mental illness in developing countries on one site.
Mm.
And no one else has done that as far as I found online. UNICEF hasn't done that. World Vision Plan. And what I've done is there's two groups helping the cause on my website, one in the donate section, one in the resources section. In the donate section, those are groups that you can donate to. And in the resources section, there are more groups. You may not necessarily be able to donate to them, but I keep finding more as time goes on. And what they do, these groups, they use models of basic mental health care. There's a TED talk by Vikram Patel. In the 90s, he said, well, we have these models of basic physical health care where you can help someone where there's no hospital for hundreds of miles, like manuals on how to treat a broken leg, treat pneumonia, that sort of thing. Why don't we do this for mental health? So we did. And now these models are being used by these groups on my website. And these models are low cost, proven effective, and scalable. And the World Health Organization is trying to figure out the best way to roll them out to the masses. In the meantime, these groups have been using these models for years and have been helping thousands of people get their mental health back, which is critically important if you're living in extreme poverty or if you can't get out of bed to feed your family, that's massive. Here in developed countries, we have some extra resources to help us out. But I will say, a man, Shekhar Saxena, he's from Harvard University. He said at the UN that every country, when it comes to mental health care, is a developed country.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the website is, of course, mindaid.ca. Are there any other places where we can keep up to date with you, like social media?
Sure. You can find everything at mindaid.ca. There's all my social media. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, a number of different social media platforms. I've started some meetup.com groups. I'm trying to get more people, like-minded people who'd like to help, because I know they exist all around the world if they simply knew about the cause, knew how to help. And I've started 3 meetup groups in 3 Canadian cities. And if people want to start up their own meetup group, wherever they are in the world, feel free to reach out to me. And it's not that hard to do, because I know there's people out there who'd like to help out, whether it's just sharing a few posts throughout the year to right up to starting their own nonprofit to help people on the ground get basic mental health care.
Great. Well, many thanks for talking to us today. It's been great to have you on.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Have a good day.